expected by every, and we people are already experienced that, we all are experiencing that out of 100%, 10% parents are like that. If we control them, if we take them in the consultation for the school activity, definitely we can have the transparency, we can have a trust of the parents on the school, and we can run the school smoothly.
So make them feel this is their school as well, right?
Yeah, we are doing the best for their own kids.
Yes, so I think involve them in the decision making, as you said, involve them in activities. And
right.
But Shailaji, as an educational entrepreneur, now you suddenly see this thing where government might, and this is very much a reality tomorrow, might say that this fee capping would happen. And what happens in the experience of those states where fee capping has been implemented, either the books price goes up, the uniform set suddenly goes up. The school, what option does the school have, right? He has to look at other income sources. So the transport becomes mandatory in that school, suddenly which is a 5,000 rupees per month transportation. The school starts doing all these things. Second option for the school to do is, and who is clearly very transparent and says, I can't run the school like this. Let me sell off my land if I can and make some apartments or set up a factory or something. Educational entrepreneurs are going to have this question very soon in front of them, and those who are running schools, this is very much a reality. So, or they say, let's diversify, let's set up some additional income sources. CBSE does not allow after-school coaching in the school. So, I'm sure not everyone's going to give up. People are running schools in very, very difficult situation even today with a lot of regulations. And every time a new regulation comes, it's always anti-school. I mean, whenever I read a newspaper and say, if I read the word regulation or government and school, it has to be something detrimental for the school. So how do you think educational entrepreneurs are going to react now with this? Or how do we break this monopoly? Because there is also a monopoly that schools enjoy with, unethical schools enjoy with parents. Once a child is enrolled in the school, they start fleecing the child as well. And that's where the negativity comes from, right? So isn't the way to break a monopoly is by increasing competition? But putting more rules stifles competition, right? You're putting in more rules and encouraging people to kill the competition because competition is dying down. On the other hand, the way to break a monopoly is to have more competition. The Air India quality went up because private airlines came in. Telecom, we've seen that. We've seen that in every airline, hotels, wherever the government has exited. But right now, the approach of the government is, let's put in more regulation. So how are we going to break this direction? I'm sure the government also realizes it's basic economics as well. So as an entrepreneur, how would you react, or what would your advice be to the government, and on what direction as a country will you take? Because we have to go together. There's no doubt about that. The government can't work in isolation, and we cannot work in isolation with a very anti-government attitude as well, right? So this partnership, where do you think synergies come in terms of getting the private-public partnerships going?
I was just going to add that only, that, well, when I mentioned that 90% of the schools in the country belong to the government, and 10% belong to the private sector. So obviously, the government having a lot of land, which it's at its disposal, a lot of resources, but somehow they lack the zeal, they lack the vision, and probably lack the motivation also, which is prevalent in the private sector. Now, if public and private, I mean, if they combine together, if they can have these, wherein the government, instead of implementing this RTE Act, I mean, if they can actually allow the private schools to take over these public schools, probably do something good to them, I'm sure, there will be a reverse kind of enrollment in the public schools here. If you look at the last decade, more than, almost 6 to 7% every year are enrolling, from the public school, to the private school here. If you look at, more statistics out here, that almost 30 to 40% of the school dropouts are there, from between the primary level and the school and the secondary level. And again, more 30 to 40% again at the age of class 10 also. So I feel that the government and the public, the government and the private sector need to work in tandem. They need to combine their synergies, and I feel that is the way forward. Adding one to what Abha ma'am also mentioned is that, regarding transparency, I believe that there has to be effective communication also. And you need to have the parents involved in the school activities. I do understand, like, there are some schools which, make it forcefully to buy uniforms and notebooks from the school. But if you provide them at reasonable prices, we probably, most of the schools do it with a view to minimize the difficulty faced by the parents. At times, not all the books are available at the shops together. Like in our school, what we do is that we pass on whatever discounts we get, and we pass it on to the, to the parents, to the students. So that is one thing which we are, doing in our school. Yeah.
So you might be the exception from what I know in the industry. Normally, there is a margin and there's a convenience as well as long as parents are not being forced to buy from a particular vendor, whether he's in school or just the shop is just outside the school.
We don't force. Yeah,
so I think that's what I feel. It's okay. You can have a margin in that. That's fine. But as long as parents are not forced to buy that particular, then otherwise complaints start, and that trust deficit that we're all talking about just widens up because now everybody understands what's going on. So why don't we have? You've been in the industry for long, and again, I'll quote Mr. Anil Swarup, the school secretary. He said, "Why don't schools set up their own self-regulatory body? If schools can self-discipline, there would be no need for an external government body to step in. And these complaints that we keep hearing could be. So, is it possible to set up? Do you visualize in your years of experience anything like this coming up, or will people just come here, have lunch, meet up each other, nice meeting you, and go back to their schools? Is there a chance of that emerging at any point, or at any point where, for that you need that trust deficit to overcome, where you sit across the government and say, okay, what's the problem, guys? They say, this is a problem. They said, okay, we'll take care of it. Is that something that you foresee in the future? Because the government is already opening up sectors. You mentioned the private-public partnership. Just yesterday in newspaper it came that government of Rajasthan is offering its public schools to the private sector. You have to pay 75 lakh rupees, and then you get their infrastructure. It's a very good offer, and if somebody from the private sector does take up that offer from sitting in this hall, please do become role models for the private sector so we can have more of these initiatives. Otherwise, if this collapses like many of the previous private-public partnerships, it will just be discouraging to everybody. So do you see this, do you see that on one hand we are having more and more regulations, on the other hand we are seeing these signs from the government saying that please come and join us as well. Is this dichotomy going to continue? Are we going to keep experimenting? Are we going to keep practicing the ball dance with the government? Or do you see, no, we'll have a clear-cut policy emerge, which will be non-reactive maybe in nature? Do you see, what's your view on that?
I certainly hope so, because the platforms exist. You see, we have, now I'm from an ICSE school, therefore there is this association of ICSE schools in the state, also nationally. There are these platforms, and I would expect them to become a little bit proactive. We have the council, for example, of ICSE. CBSE, I don't know, it's a government agency, part of the Human Resource Development Ministry, but these other boards, they have a role here to address, because they are hands-off kind of thing where you deal with the issues as they come up. But there are these associations, and you would like to see them becoming a little bit proactive, becoming the voice of these schools and trying to interact with government agencies and put their point of view across. Public-private work that is happening, interactions that are happening is more focused. It really is something that's happening in Rajasthan, in Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir. It's very focused, and it's something that we are experimenting with. The government is experimenting. I don't see much of a parallel between that and the issue at hand with fee capping and all of that. But I would really want that these organizations that are there, where they offer platforms for the schools to get together, that they become more proactive and try to address this. It's going to be extremely difficult for individual schools to be able to address this. We all have really three options. One option is to comply with the rules as they come up. All right, there's going to be fee capping, so be it. Within the limitations possible, we go ahead and do what we can. The second, of course, is become crooked, become dishonest, and try to do whatever we can to keep our head above water. The third is shut down the schools. So within these three options, we have to choose whatever works with us. I hope all of us will take the first option without forgetting the children entrusted to our care. We do our best with them, and we really try to do all. We've been hearing some marvelous ideas since morning, so that remains a priority. Now, there are going to be constraints in any field. Now, it's just that our constraint, the rules of the game have become a little bit more difficult. Fine, but we don't lose focus there. About building trust with the parents, some ideas were mentioned here. My experience is one that works very well. Admit mistakes. When you Somehow we principals seem to feel that we have to seem infallible and always right. Teachers also. When there's a mistake, in all humility, we accept. Sorry, madam, sorry, sir, we made a mistake, we'll do better next time. It builds trust like anything. You'll see that parents will reach out for you. They will repose much more faith and trust in you. All these other things are great. But there's one thing which we are not very good at. Somehow in the field of education, we know it, there's this attitude of know it all. If we can somehow curb that, you'll find that we become more approachable and we become more trustworthy. And parents want to do that, but somehow there is this barrier between us. You try it, and you'll find that it works.
So on that positive note, where we'll leave aside our egos, we become lifelong learners, and learn from our mistakes as well. That will be the way forward, building our trust with our stakeholders. And also, I think we should all initiate with the organizations that we are a part of and try and reach out to the policymakers. And also, Anil, you must, wherever you are, Anil, you must try and build those bridges, because you can play the role of the acting bridge where schools will cooperate. We know what is at stake, and we would rather take the first option. I think all of us who are educators, we would not like to go down the second or third option. But on that positive note, I think I'd like to end this. So thank you so much. It was a wonderful panel discussion. I think we all, I tried to be a bit controversial in the beginning to try and trigger that anger and emotion from all of you so that we can speak with our heart. But thanks so much. Thanks, Anil, for inviting all of us. Truly been a really good session. Thank you.
Thank you so much to each one of you. But I'd request you guys to stay on stage. And I'd request Mrs. Vandana Lula to come and join me on stage. And I'm sure that was a really insightful session for everybody who's present here. And we are going to felicitate you for this wonderful session that you guys just did right now. And thank you so much again, once again. So for this panel, we have with us is Mr. Amol Arora. We have Srimati Abha Meghe. Mr. Shailesh Dalmia. And Mr. Payam Shogi. And I request, excuse me, can you just take out these chairs, please? Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause for our panelists. And this was our last panel session for today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And for the last session for today's conference, we have one more speaker with us. And let's invite on stage Mrs. Tanuja Gomes, co-founder and CEO of Furtado's School of Music. Tanuja has been a seasoned banking professional and has contributed 16 years working for multinational banks like HSBC and Barclays in India and Singapore. The vision behind FSM is to offer universal access to quality music education where students have opportunities to excel, give internally accredited examinations. Her strenuous efforts for making FSM a name synonymous with music and her widespread vision for the same earned her the prestigious Goldman Sachs Women Entrepreneurship. At present, she aims to introduce structured music curriculum in the schools and all across the nation. Well, I'm sure the objective of making FSM synonym to music is pretty much evident because my family is in music and I've seen Furtados all over my home. So thank you so much for doing that. And we had a tea break session, which was supposed to be our favorite session. But then, because we are running short of time, anybody who wants to have tea, coffee can just go out towards the lobby and take their coffee and tea along with themselves and come inside and listen to Ms. Tanuja Gomes here. And the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. First of all, thank you. I don't see many people walking out to get tea and coffee. I promise. She's whispered, told me that please keep it short, 10 minutes. Yeah, you know, the objective of this, me being here, and this small limited time rendezvous is to share more about how music can change lives, how the 21st century can have more enterprising solutions to be offered to all educators like yourself. Can I have my AV first, please? Thank you. Thank you. If it's taking time, I can quickly walk through. All right, thank you. There are lots and lots of, today the whole education sector is with holistic, the word holistic is being used everywhere. And everybody wants, there are robotics classes, there is sports, there's drama, everything. Can someone guess which is the activity which, there's a lot of study done, data that has proven the entire left brain, right brain wiring that happens. Neurologists have submitted reports and reports confirming what helps children with their brains or any adult. Which language do we use to teach ABCD? Does anyone want to guess? What do we start with? A, B, C, D, E? What do we really resort to when we're extremely happy or when we're extremely sad? Culturally, which is one of the oldest language that is used across any, I mean, whether it is hymns, bhajans, everything which has been spread culturally, which is the oldest language. And what gives a lot of joy? Music. Music education. This is an interesting, in fact, I was going to start by saying that I'll start, should I do some singing here, to get attention, because I know it's been a long day. I won't, trust me, my husband gets most embarrassed when I start singing. But the point is, music is one of the most beautiful language that can be imparted in the school. When we recollect all our school years, the most activity that we can think of with happy are the moments that probably we've done a lot of music or sports. I definitely remember the old grand piano in my convent school and all the songs that I learned from there. Inspired with this is Furtado School of Music. I'm going to skip this slide considering the time is pretty short. This again re-emphasizes how music education helps. It's not just listening music, but playing music helps, because it helps with your left brain and the right brain wiring. When you're playing a particular instrument, your hands, your left is the emotional part and the right is the creative part. So both are talking to each other, and that's when a lot of activity happens. They say it's the best workout for your brains. All right. Coming back to why music education in school, my humble request to all of you educators is, usually when we meet educators, music is perceived as a, very often they say, but I don't want to offer music to everybody. There are few talented people, children, why don't you reach out to them? Do we do that for maths? Do we do that for history, science? When something we know culturally, conceptually, which has lasted for decades and generations, why don't we want a curriculum for music? Very often, it's a hobby class. We can't miss a maths class. We can't miss the after-school extra assessments and all the other things. But music is a hobby class. In today's day and age, EQ is going to be the most empowering solution for any child. With music, you're not only helping the child's development, you're helping them, with confidence, personality development, overall everything. So why just a hobby class? What is music? Where, again, most of the school says, we have a music sir, or, ma'am, they're doing a damn good job. What are they doing? There are few patriotic songs. There are few songs that are picked up. Those songs, children are usually prepared for those songs, or annual day preparation. Let's put our hand on our heart and tell me, Is it outside this? Is there a curriculum that we follow? Does any educator really check, per se, what are the goals that we are accomplishing? Singing, yes, synonym. Very important. I genuinely believe singing is very good for a child. It helps with the rhythm. But there has to be a curriculum. And it's optional, like I mentioned. Furtados, like the lady just mentioned, we are a 152-year-old brand in the country. We are synonym to music education, whether it is A.R. Rahman playing on a Furtados piano, or whether it is the Coldplay concert that just happened, attended by lakhs of people, Furtados gear was there. Today, Furtados is a synonym name to the whole retail music instrument space. Furtados School of Music is synonym to music education. The message I want to leave with each one of you, we have a solution for every school. If you respect music, you're passionate about music, we'll make things work for you. We have programs starting from 15-month-olds to adults like yourself. We have programs which cover Western music. We've just recently launched Hindustani music with Chintu Bhosle, Asha Bhosle's grandson. So we have a solution for everybody. Okay? It's just the will and the passion that has to come halfway. Whether you want to execute an instrument program, whether you want to have a vocals program, we have a solution for you all. And that we will get because we're extremely passionate about what we do. Our entire curriculum is aligned to Trinity College of London. So if children who learn music with us, we ensure we follow all the foundation. Very often, that's the dilemma. Not many children or educators want to spend time in terms of the technical part of music, but we do that. Any child who learns with us, tomorrow when they go internationally, we want them to learn the language of music. The entire curriculum is also about jamming together. If you're learning